Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Now today I wanted to talk about awareness, and we've got two kinds of awareness. I've talked about awareness before in broad strokes and how it's a useful thing to develop and a useful tool to have, and it's the way that we are able to build the foundations of fact and things that I go on about so often. Um, but there are two kinds of awareness overall. One is much more self-focused, which is rather unsurprisingly self-awareness, and the other is situational awareness. And these are the two kinds of awareness that are most useful to us in our day-to-day. And so as a result, I kind of wanted to go into those individually. The first one I want to touch on, the one I'll be touching on in this video, is self-awareness, and then the one in the next video will be more situational awareness. Obviously, the situational awareness one can be um, really useful out in the world, doing things, interacting with people, so on and so forth, but it's not all that useful if you don't have a good appreciation of yourself and kind of where you're going, what you want from the situations you're actually putting yourself into in the first place. And so as a result, I wanted to start with that. And so with self-awareness, self-awareness, as I talked about in my other videos on this kind of topic or where I've referenced it, it allows you to, the benefits of it are that it allows you to make more deliberate decisions instead of just making decisions without kind of meaning to, or just flying into things. It allows you to use a lot more in terms of logic and reasoning and knowing your process, so that you can see where things have gone wrong instead of emotions and purely gut feelings, which potentially allows you to just slip into negative patterns, or when something goes wrong, you're not able to kind of work back through what's happened to see what your actions kind of led you to, and then it allows you more in the way of control over yourself if you're aware of kind of what buttons people can press with you, and the things that make you angry or nervous or upset. Then you are much more able to kind of be aware of when those things are approaching and how you can kind of sidestep them and stuff like that. It allows you to make sure that you're not particularly easily deceived or manipulated, because you are aware of both the things inside and around you, but also in terms of self-awareness, you know what kind of things people could say to, again, push your buttons and get you to do what they want you to, be it good or bad. It allows you, through a better understanding of yourself, to have a better understanding of other people. If you know which buttons can be pressed to get you going, then seeing kind of similar responses in other people, you can guess where their kind of behavior patterns are going to and from. And then, for the most part, it allows you to be aware of what you're doing and avoid these mistakes, avoid these problems after you've maybe experienced them once or twice and you've kind of worked your way around it, because you're aware of the effect it's had on you and how you've responded to it. It means that you've got more of a kind of way of moving past it more easily in the future. So how many ways do we have to improve our self-awareness? Now, there are an awful lot of ways, and obviously everybody is different, so everyone is going to have to explore in their own ways, but as a kind of generalized set of things, I've got 5 things here that I'm going to throw at you guys that you can maybe take a look at in regards to helping you improve your self-awareness, getting to know more about who you are and how you tick. So the first one is that I would suggest is going through introspection. I've talked about introspection before. I've talked about kind of working yourself out before and stuff like that, and it all comes down to questioning yourself. Having a way of kind of taking a pause and just reflecting on you and the decisions you've made and stuff like that, where you're sat there and you're going to be asking questions like, what is it that I'm trying to achieve? What is it that makes me want to achieve that? What am I doing that's working? What obstacles am I facing? What could I do to change things so that I could get to where I want to go faster? All those kind of things. it doesn't have, lots of people will put this kind of stuff forward as meditation, but it doesn't have to be meditation. It can be pretty straightforward of just sitting down and asking yourself these questions, and then either just coming up with the answers, or as I suggest a lot of people do, write them down, which kind of leads them on to our next thing, which is keep a good record of your plans, your priorities, the answers to your questions, things like that. When I'm coaching someone, one of the things that I get them to do is write everything down. The reason why: it allows you to continually refer back. You're not able to remember everything, and so as a result, having it down on paper gives you a good place to go back to look over stuff, to kind of dive into these things and work your way through it again. It's one thing to give yourself a solid answer to all of those questions that we asked a moment ago, when you're sat down and you're able to just reflect on things. But then getting up and moving on from that one moment of peace and reflection, you might not always remember the answers. It might be hard, especially in stressful situations, to bring those things into your mind so that you can actually continue to work towards what you want, instead of getting mired in whatever emotional turmoil or upset is kind of present at the time. And so, sitting down, taking time to go through different areas of your life. As said, with coaching, I've shown you guys a couple of tools that I use anyway, and it's kind of like the wheel of life thing, or the way that I tend to format it is kind of more like a range of mountains, unsurprisingly. And so, being able to keep track of kind of how far away you are from what you want, and where you're going, and what obstacles you may be facing, the things that you're doing well, the things you're doing badly, how you want to be after the end of it. All of those things are significant, and writing them down, not only does it give you a solid record, but not only are you answering the questions, you're giving yourself the kind of reinforcement to that memory in regards to the moment of you actually physically writing them down. You're creating something new to accompany the memory, which only ever is going to enforce what stays in your head. Then the next couple are both kind of feedback related. The first one is kind of talk to friends, talk to people that you trust, because when it comes to self-awareness, it's all very well and good for us to think we know ourselves, but it's only through reflection of both on ourselves and with other people that we gain a full insight. Because where I can go, well, I think I'm quite confident and friendly and stuff, but then I could go to someone and get feedback from them, and they go, well, you can be, but also you can just be incredibly terrifying. Or you can be remarkably kind of difficult to work with when your mind has gone and focused on something, or the number of times the you will come into a situation and do X, Y, and Z is detrimental to the way that I perceive you and the way that we work together. It gives that little bit of extra from outside of yourself to gain a greater appreciation of yourself, if you get what I mean. And this, I'm not saying ask anybody. I'm saying ask friends or people that you trust specifically. People that either know you quite well, or even people that don't know you particularly well, so that you can get a good kind of feedback on a first impression. Yeah. There was one friend that I had who I had this kind of conversation with kind of recently, where we kind of went back and remembered where we first kind of met, and how she said that for the most part I just seemed kind of quiet and kind of set back from everyone, and I said, well, you seem kind of scary and unimpressed. And it all taking that into account, it was, on that first meeting I was a new person working in a new place, doing a new thing with people that I wasn't particularly certain of, and that I turned out to be proven right on that. But then in meeting this friend, she was going through a hard time. I was unaware of that, and yet picked up on some of it. Yeah, some of the negativity and the standoffishness from that. And so, gaining the feedback and the insight from how that other person perceived, and then matching that up with what was going on with me at the time, it kind of demonstrated to me kind of what I need to overcome when it comes to meeting other new people, so that I appear more approachable, that I'm not quiet and stood away, and I don't feel that's a problem that I have anymore anyway. But again, without some of that feedback to kind of add things up, doing it now when I've already overcome it, it just reinforces what I've already done. If it was there at the time, then it would allow me to plan better to overcome. The next thing that is kind of feedback based, and this is something that I recommend a lot, by the way, is especially in work and in places of work, you have your kind of 360 team feedback stuff, especially in management. And so like those kind of forms, those kind of very quantitative or kind of quantitative elements based on qualitative feedback can be incredibly useful, because it's not just a case of oh yeah you're all right. It's a case of you're 5 instead of a 10, but this person's a 10, this person's a 7, that person's a 3, and these are the reasons why people felt that those scores were legit, were reasonable, or were correct. At which point then you can go, okay, well, what do I need to do to get to a 5? What do I need to do to get to an 8, to a 9? And it gives you a list of additional criteria to work with to then continue to progress. Would I suggest doing this with your friends? Depends on the dynamics amongst you and your friends and how you operate and stuff like that. Would I recommend doing this maybe with your family? Yeah, maybe. I've seen this recommended as or this kind of thing, kind of qualitative and quantitative feedback in written form being suggested a few times through kind of people's therapy and through other bits and pieces that people have been doing. So there is an element of that. In regards to self-awareness, though, again, it allows for, as long as you are open to the feedback, then you can sit down, take a look and go, well, yeah, okay, so if they're saying that I'm a 5 at the moment, what is it that gets me to a 6? What is it that gets me to a 10? And it gives you those milestones to aim for, to overcome whatever obstacles there are between you meshing well with those people. If you're an 8 or a 9 in an area, I would probably go, well, yeah, okay, they may not have given you a 10 because no one gets a 10, no one's perfect. If they've given you a 9, I'd probably say you're doing pretty well and it's not something you need to worry too much about. If it's an 8, then maybe try and pin down a couple of things, but otherwise, again, you're probably doing quite well. But if you're coming in on those kind of forms as a 3 or a 4 or a 5, then you've got a lot of work to do, and that's where you definitely need to be kind of focused on the obstacles that are there and where the feedback is suggesting they are, because there's a good chance that you're blind to them until they're properly pointed out. This is where self-awareness has its limits until other people offer their observations for you to then match up with your own and create a greater appreciation of yourself in your own head. And then the last thing that I would suggest, the number 5 on this list, is something that I've talked about before quite extensively and things like that, and that's undertaking things like psychometric tests. And obviously I'm biased. I would very much go take a look at DISC. I personally, if you're interested, they can be quite expensive, but again, if you're interested, then please drop me an email in the link down in the description. But otherwise, for the most part, things like DISC, Myers-Briggs, and other various tests that are out there, they allow you, again, a lot of quantitative kind of feedback on you, and it's not being given to you by some random friend or some co-worker that you barely know. This is you going through a kind of psychological testing situation whereby the feedback that you're getting is basically feedback that you have given yourself, filtered somewhat and made more comprehensible, but for the most part it's all just you giving it back to yourself. Me getting my first disc profile done was a really, it wasn't a huge eye-opener, but it did make a lot of sense to me, the scores that were coming back. And it meant that then when I was looking at it, I was like, oh, so, well, if this is actually the case, then what I'm doing is working to my strengths, but then there are other issues that I am having that I can adjust. Now that this has spelled some stuff out for me, I can adjust. So where mine came back as in work, I am a for the most part results-focused dominant person, but then when it comes to a stressful situation, I flip and I become much more communicative and much more of an influencing person rather than a purely task-focused one. So when things get stressful, I actually focus more on people to get the job done through communication rather than focusing purely on the result regardless of everyone else. Which, when it came to me leading teams and things, turned out to be a really advantageous thing, because when on a day-to-day I was able to just go and do and finish the job by myself just because I wanted the result and I didn't, there was no rush, no fuss. Me or whoever else would just go in and fix it, and it didn't matter how it was done, it just got done. When there was a big rush on, when there was a person from head office coming down, stuff like that, when there was stress and pressure, then it allowed me to communicate far more effectively to the team, and I was able to now recognize that in myself, that, oh yeah, I have been doing that. I had just been acting in the way that felt best, but yeah, no, this is actually a thing that I'm doing, and it makes sense to me. But then when it comes to paperwork and stuff, where a lot of it was process, and I was alright at it, but it was tiring, it was dull, it was stuff that I didn't enjoy, it wasn't something that I wanted to get stuck into. Like there were now things in front of me that I could go, right, but I can rework that situation, that experience, that task that I need to do in a way that is now more appropriate to the kind of mindset that I seem to have when in this environment. And so, it's another way of just opening your eyes to things that maybe are really obvious, but they're so close to you that you just can't see them past, like, the end of your nose. So those are the 5 things that I would suggest to kind of go and take a look at and go and tackle in regards to improving your self-awareness. We'll be talking about kind of individual, situational awareness, rather, later in the week. But otherwise, guys, I'd love to hear what you guys think. When do you feel that being more aware of you would have probably been helpful to you solving a problem? Yeah, what did you do to help yourself become more self-aware? Again, anything that you guys, even questions that you have around this, anything that you guys have in regards to questions or thoughts or things like that, chances are if one of you has this thought or one of you has this question, other people will as well. Don't hesitate, just drop them down in the comments. And otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you found this at all interesting or useful, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.